AEW All In 2024 is in the books, and that was a hell of a show. Wow. Great stuff from Wembley Stadium. Loved this show, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say I liked it better than last year's. I really did. I thought this year's build blew last year's build out of the water. It felt like a lot of those matches last year took a while to kind of get booked. This year, they had some stories that were really going for a while there, some of them nearly a year with Toni Storm and Mariah May, and I thought the payoff for most of these matches tonight was incredible. We got some surprises, we got some announcements, we got some returns, we had an amazing night of wrestling, some bangers, the main event delivered, Ospreay and MJF delivered. I think the only matches offhand, off the top of my head, that I felt might have been a little bit flat was Mercedes Moné and Britt Baker. That match did not deliver. And Jack Perry and Darby Allen's Coffin match felt like, to me, like they might have gotten their time cut. It was a semi-main event, went on before the last match, and ended quicker than I thought. So maybe those two matches didn't quite live up to the hype that I had for them. But overall, looking at the show, I had a blast. It was so fun. There were so many great individual moments throughout the show that we'll talk about, from, the entrances to the production to the matches to some of the story beats to the returns and, some of the surprises, good and bad, that we saw tonight, and some interesting outcomes. So we are now looking at a brand new AEW World Champion. Bryan Danielson did beat Swerve Strickland in the main event tonight to win the title. And the first thing I want to do before we really get going here is I want to congratulate Swerve Strickland on one hell of a first World Championship run. I think a lot of people tonight were kind of hoping that maybe he would beat Danielson, and I mentioned in the predictions that him having that feather in his cap, being the person to retire him, would be great for him. I just didn't feel like it was going to happen based on, kind of how the story was going. But I believe Swerve's already a made man. I don't think this damaged him at all tonight. If anything, this boosted Swerve's level. This proved to me, after he has come through time and time again on the big stage, and even though his reign might have been relatively short, I think he packed a lot into that run to where I'm not looking at Swerve's world title run as a disappointment at all. I think, and I hope anyway, that this is the first of many world championship runs for Swerve. And he might get one again in a couple of months. I mean, the way they threw that Hangman Page stuff out there in the main event kind of gave Swerve some protection. So we're going to break down the main event and everything later, but am I crazy for thinking that Wrestle Dream in Tacoma in a couple of months might be the title dropping point for Danielson? That might be when he officially retires from full-time in-ring competition, and he might drop that belt right back to Swerve. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Now, before then, he's probably going to have two championship matches. One against Darby Allen. I believe that shot is going to come at Grand Slam. Darby's already earned that. And the winner of the Casino Gauntlet match tonight, which was not who I predicted, Hangman Page, and it was not a debuting Ricochet, who did debut in that match. It was Christian, of all people, winning the Gauntlet match with help from Luchasaurus, who earlier on in the London Ladder match, they teased a split about to happen. And then they teased it again. Luchasaurus helps Christian win, so he's got a title shot. So I think Danielson might successfully defend the AEW title against Christian whenever he decides to cash in his contract, and against Darby Allen at Grand Slam. And then he goes to his hometown, Wrestle Dream, potentially to wrestle Swerve again or somebody else, and drops it there. Could it be someone like Will Ospreay? Or are they going to go back to Swerve? Because the way they set that up in the main event tonight with Hangman coming out, kind of giving that distraction, was a little bit of a way, I think, to protect Swerve so he could maybe justify another world title shot here down the road. That's just my guess. So let me know what you think of the main event situation, the scenario, what Danielson is going to do, how long is he going to hold the title for, and when he's going to drop it. But overall, man, especially the main event, it delivered and then some. It was just a very, very emotional, fun main event. And a lot of great storytelling, in-ring storytelling tonight specifically. And I got to give this pay-per-view an A. I'm not sure if I'm going to give it an A+ or an A++ or a 9.9 out of 10. But I can't give it any lower than an 8.5 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed the show. And I thought they were incredibly on point with their match timing and their pacing of the show. They've been really good about this lately. I think there was 1 or 2 shows in AEW's history that ran really long and got a stick up the fans' ass. Now they're chomping at the bit to complain about AEW having long shows. But lately they've been cramming all of their pay-per-views in within a 4-hour block, which I think 4 hours is the perfect pay-per-view time for length anyway, for either a large pay-per-view, a big pay-per-view like your SummerSlams and whatnot, or pay-per-views you're shelling out $50 for. If I'm putting down $50, I want a 10-match and 4-hour card. Sorry, I just do. And they've been really good about keeping it confined to that 4 hours. I think once you start approaching 4.5 hours, bleeding into 5 hours now, and then you also have the 0 hour and the kickoff that can really burn the fans out. And lately AEW's been a lot better about that. And the fans, they had a couple of pockets near the end of the show where they might have been a bit gassed, but they woke back up and they were all in, no pun intended, for that main event. Great crowd tonight in Wembley Stadium. Super hot crowd. They did a lot of singing. They did a lot of chanting. They were just very, very engaged and enthusiastic, and it was really fun to watch this as a fan at home. Now, I'm on the Pacific Coast. I'm in California. I had to get up and watch this thing at 10 a.m., so I did get a little bit of a late start, and I had to backtrack a little bit. And when we're going through the results here, I didn't see any of the 0-hour matches at all, even though I do have the results of these written down, and we will talk about some of the announcements that we heard on tonight's show. So there's your little intro here. I'm going to say hello to everybody in the chat and kind of get a lay of the land here, see what you guys thought. Please let me know your grades of the show in the chat. A, B, C, or D, 1 through 10, good, bad, what was, what did you like? What were you let down by? What did you want to see better from? That type of thing. Let us all know there in the chat as we go through here, and happy Sunday to you. Obviously, we're not doing a classic watch along tonight because we're here doing this review instead, and we won't have time to do both. But I'm kind of considering maybe doing a Monday Night Raw watch along tomorrow night. Last week, a review wasn't much to talk about, and I don't know if they're really going to have a crazy Raw tomorrow, so I didn't want to come up here and just force out a review or anything. So maybe I'll look at my schedule. Maybe we'll come up here and do a watch along for Raw tomorrow, since we're not doing a classic watch along tonight. I probably will do that unless I realize something about my schedule that I'm not aware of and I have to forget that idea. But most likely we're going to be doing that tomorrow night. Let's say hello to Zach Palgett and Mohammed and Jet the Hawk and Mark Simpson. We got Jimmy Anderson in here. It's nice that Sweden got some representation in the form of Europe and the song Final Countdown. Danielson did come out to that song and they played it when he won. That song has a special place in my heart as well because I'm from Detroit, and the Detroit Pistons NBA team always used that song as their intro back in the day when they used to win championships and shit, and it was always really, really awesome to see Danielson using that throughout his career has been really awesome, and cool to see Tony Khan not only pony up for that, but he also ponied up for an Oasis song when Nigel McGuinness came out. And the Young Bucks had a really cool Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart themed intro as well. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool entrances tonight, and some cool music on the show this evening. It was just all kinds of fun. We Are Pro Wrestling. Good to see you here as well. I hope he stays champion at least until Wrestle Dream. I want him to wrestle at the Collision I'm going to in early October. Yeah, well, I think he's going to hold the title definitely until Wrestle Dream. That feels like a good spot for him to drop it. I hope, though, that he wrestles on Collision. I'm not sure. Is Danielson going to be wrestling as the champion on Collision? I don't know if he is, We Are Pro Wrestling, but I'm going to hope that he is for your sake. Hopefully on that show, Danielson will be there. And where are you again in the world? Where is that Collision that is in early October? Where is it located? Hopefully Danielson will at least appear. I'm not sure if you're going to see him wrestle on Collision, although you might. I shouldn't say you won't, but I at least hope he appears for you. That's for sure. William Cullen, also good to see you. We got Big J in the house. My boy Ronnie is here. So is David Brown. Gilbert Arbalo, you're giving the show a 9 out of 10, David. That's awesome. Good to see Gilbert, the Sgt. Pepper Beetle Bucka. Yeah, Bucka or Bucks, I think is what you meant to say. Daniel Barry Sports is in the house as well. Pre-War Dreams. Good to see you as well. Love how Swerve Hangman animosity is still white hot. I know it's continuing on. And Swerve is going to, I'm wondering if the purpose of Hangman doing that was not only to kind of protect Swerve a little bit, but also just to temporarily distract Swerve while Danielson busts out these Christian and Darby title matches before running back into Swerve at Wrestle Dream. That could be what they're doing. Denny Down Bad, I'm not sure if I got you. Bonkers LFC, good to see you. Titanium Titan and Jet the Hawk, Shell Shock, Drewski, and Daniel Malcolm in the house, member for 7 months. Jacob Fatu voice, what's up, man? Love you too, Daniel. Max Pokebra is here, and so is WWE Fan with a very generous $10 drop. Appreciate that. Greg, it's been a wild week. Was on vacation with my girlfriend in the Dominican Republic. Then yesterday went to Cedar Point, America's roller coaster. What a great way to end the week with this show. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really am. I'm glad that you had a great vacation too, and you went to Cedar Point. You've been busy, WWE Fan, and you still had time to watch All In. That's tremendous. Marcus M., good to see you as well. Isaac, Victor Cologne. We've got Spectra, Stone Cold, ABJ, and anybody else saying hello in the chat. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Do me a favor, smash Mr. Thumbs Up button. Make sure you subscribe if you have not yet already. Slowest subscriber count we have had in a while. We are at a snail's pace right now. It's just the algorithm thing. We'll jump back into it and start moving again. But right now, we are stagnant as all fuck. So please help us out. Tell your friends, and especially tell your moms. That's the most important thing. I also want to thank Mike Witt with the $5. Overall, good show. Christian Cage winning was a letdown. Was hoping the dinosaur was finally going to turn on him. 3-year storyline. Is that how long they've been together? 3 years? Jesus. Zach Palgett as well. Darby versus Bryan at Wrestle Dream. Darby is from Washington. Well, so is Bryan. I thought they already established Darby's shot. I thought it was Grand Slam. I thought maybe I misheard that, but I thought that Darby's shot was Grand Slam, not Washington. So they might want to change it, though. I mean, if Danielson's going to drop the belt at Wrestle Dream, I mean, I think dropping it back to Swerve would be great, but if they want to belt up Darby, there have been some talks and some online circulings and reports that AEW is considering a world title run for Darby. I don't know why that would be considered news. Darby Allen is the equivalent of Jeff Hardy in WWE. He just has that special connection. He appeals to men, women, old, young, everybody. He's got his audience reach, stretches really far. He's super popular, super over, absolutely bonkers in the ring. He's Jeff Hardy reincarnated, just a little bit different. They're not the exact same person, much different personalities and even ring styles, but in terms of the exciting nature of their work and the fan base that they reach, I would definitely consider Darby for a world title run. I already would have. Darby might have a shelf life. This dude's going to attempt to climb Mount Everest next year, and he might not make it back. And also with the style of wrestling that he does, he might not survive very much longer, although we said the same thing about Jeff Hardy as well. But I absolutely would consider Darby for a world title run. And if you wrestled Bryan at Wrestle Dream, then great, that would be a perfect spot. But I feel like the Darby match might come before then. Good to see Spectre in here. 2-year shoot, brother. Good show. Glad to see Ricochet in AEW. Bryan Swerve was fantastic. Will and MJF was awesome. Feels like MJF should have won, though, to drop it to Danny, also thought Sting was going to go heel tonight. Not based on everything that we've seen between Will, Ospreay, and MJF. Ospreay was absolutely winning this match. I was never even remotely considering MJF as the winner here. That one made all the sense in the world to me, especially after what they did on Wednesday night. But Daniel Garcia could still, be a part of this somehow. And Wrestle Purist is reporting that he has not signed a new deal with AEW. So I think when a lot of fans, myself included, saw him turn up tonight, I thought that meant he must be sticking around. But apparently his deal is still up in October and he's still in negotiations. So that's usually not TK's style. Usually if he feels somebody is going to go back to WWE or they don't want to be there, he cools them off or shuts them down. But he is taking a chance here with Garcia, banking on the fact that he will stick around in AEW. I guess that's what's happening there. But he was a part of that finish. And that's cool because he's got the thing going on with MJF as well. So all in all, good stuff tonight from AEW, and we're going to get into all of the results here. Also want to shout out Jimmy Anderson, who had a super chat earlier. I'm not sure if I hit. Oh, no, I did. I got that one from you about the final countdown. Good to see, as always, Jimmy in here from Sweden. I hope you enjoyed the show. Titanium Titan, good to see you as well. I never want to miss a channel member if you guys are saying hello in there. Well, the story, yeah, Spectre, I see what you're saying. Well, the story can still be for Daniel Garcia to win the international title, but then again, there's also a lot of championships in that company for him to win, and I feel like, you know, him taking that from MJF, it felt like that could be where it was going to go, but I still think you can get an MJF and Daniel Garcia match. But in terms of him being a belt holder, I don't think that's going to happen until he officially inks an extension with AEW, which reportedly he has not yet done. So we'll have to wait and see on that. All right, well, why don't we start getting into some results here of the show? Because there's a lot to unpack, as they like to say these days. We're going to be unpacking for days with results like this. Anyway, the 0 hour, I missed the whole thing. Dudes, I live in California. I work in a restaurant late at night. I didn't go to bed until nearly 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's going to be hard for me to turn right around and get up at 9 o'clock to watch a pre-show, so I did not. I missed it all, but I did see that they added 2 matches that I wasn't aware of. They crammed about 20 more pieces of talent on this card than what we had for our predictions. Now, on the 0 hour, we knew it was going to be Willow Nightingale and Tomohiro Ishii taking on Stat and Stoke. They did win that match as predicted. I got that match right, but there were 2 other matches on the 0 hour that I had no idea about. The first one was this mega tag. It was Tommy Billington, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Action Andretti, Leo Rush, and Top Flight defeated, Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Ogogo, Arya Davari, Private Party, and Dark Order. When Dante hit Davari with a frog splash for the win. And I'm loving me some of that Tommy Billington. He did work with Jericho on Wednesday, and I just really, really like him because he's got the mannerisms of Dynamite Kid down so unbelievably perfectly, maybe even better than Benoit. Also, this was an interesting match. It looks like Dustin Rhodes is currently the Ring of Honor Tag and Ring of Honor 6-man champion, I believe, right? 6-man tag team champion. And he wrestled with all of his partners here tonight. So he's tag champs with Sammy Guevara. So it was Dustin, Sammy, Katsuyori Shibata, and Von Erichs, Ross and Marshall, with Kevin, versus Cage of Agony and Undisputed Kingdom. And we had the babyfaces getting the win there. Final reckoning into a swanton on Taven for the win there. And the babyfaces picked up the win. And that was probably a lot of championship belts in that match. We also had a sit-down interview with Brie Danielson, not Brie Bella. Brie Danielson sat down with Renee Paquette. Very cool to see them reunited on the 0 hour where Brie talked about Danielson's match in the main event and how she's confident that he's going to have, a big moment here in the main event. In a moment that I thought was going to be on the main card, we talked about this. We talked about the potential return of Jamie Hayter, and I was hoping that Saraya would do the deal. This is what I said in the predictions. I said, I hope she comes out in the middle of the show, gets on the mic, and says, I want a match with somebody, and Hayter comes out and kicks her ass. That's pretty much what they did here, only they did it on the 0 hour. Saraya came out with her crew and with Harley Cameron. Her mom was even there at ringside for this, and she gets on the mic and she's screaming that she's the best wrestler to ever come out of England, and this show is not going to go any further until she gets the respect that she deserves. That's when Jamie Hayter's music hits. She comes out and she looked amazing. Wow. I thought it was Becky Lynch for a second. All red. She looked in great shape. I mean, how long has it been since we've seen her? A year? Has it been a year? Wasn't I pitching Jamie Hayter and Jade Cargill at last year's All In? And so finally we see her back. She comes out to the ring, humongous ovation. She beats the shit out of everybody, including Saraya's mom, who jumped in the ring and ate a shot from Hayter. She cleaned house. and got the nice welcome back from the audience there. And she looked great, and I cannot wait to see her get back in the mix because she's a badass, and that time off really did her well. She looks a lot leaner. She looks stronger, faster. Everything about her just seems like it's been brightened up, and love that. Very cool to see Jamie Hayter back finally. She was on our radar. We talked about her a lot leading up to this show, hoping that she would make a return here in front of this audience, and that's exactly what she did. Excuse me. We also had a couple of announcements on the 0 Hour as well. We had the announcement for AEW Grand Slam next year. So they've switched some months around on their pay-per-views here, or their big shows, I should say. So we already have Grand Slam, I think, coming up next month, right? But then they're going to do Grand Slam next year in February, on February 15th, my sister's birthday, in Australia. So Australia is getting a Grand Slam next year. That's pretty cool. Also, Forbidden Door will be coming to London on August the 24th, 1 year from yesterday. Forbidden Door will be going to London, not Wembley Stadium, I don't believe. They didn't announce it for Wembley. They just said London. So that's cool, and that's going to be in August. Now, All In next year is in Texas, and that's moved to July. So basically, Forbidden Door and All In swapped positions, kind of, moving from July to All In to July and Forbidden Door down to August. And now we're going to get another Grand Slam just a couple of months after we get the New York Grand Slam in Australia next year in February. So those are two big announcements, two big international shows coming next year in AEW. That's very cool. In terms of the main card tonight, the setup, I thought the stage looked really good. I thought the set looked good. I love the canopy with the big AEW logo over the ring. According to Wrestle Tickets, they sold just over 53,000 seats. I think there was a 54,000 capacity here, so it was a near sellout. A lot of the wide shots, just like last year. It's a big stadium show. SummerSlam looked like this too, where there were some empty seats, but they sold 53,000 tickets for this event. That's pretty impressive, and a lot of the show did, especially on some of the wide shots, looked really good. The crowd looked good. I honestly kind of liked the setup this year better than last year. Last year, of course, they had more people, about 30,000 more people. But I just think with all of the distraction and everything, I just don't have a good memory or good taste in my mouth about last year's show. Where this year, it just felt like, last year was their practice. This year, everything was coming together more. I liked the way everything was set up. I thought a production was really on point tonight with some of the entrances, the camera shots, the effects, the pyro. Everything was really, really well put together. It did not look like a mud show at all. This looked like a well-funded, well-produced wrestling event, and I really enjoyed and liked the way the setup looked on tonight's show. And that was important, for it not to look, kind of, bland or lame or beige or anything like that. It just had a good feel and good look to it all night long. The show opened up with the London Ladders match. This was going to be the House of Black, the Patriarchy, Pac, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio. And then I think it was, Leo Rush and the other fellas, right? I missed most of this. I was up during the match. I had just gotten up, turned on the show. That match was in progress, and I kind of backtracked a little bit just to see the Jamie Hayter stuff and what I missed on the 0 Hour. I tried to catch most of the match, but I did kind of miss most of the key spots here, didn't write anything down. But I did see the finish and how Pac was able to climb up and kick Christian off and retain. I guess you just have to pull one belt down, and they rang the bell, and they were the winner. Claudio and Yuta went up to the ladders and pulled down the belts, several seconds after that. But pulling down the one belt is all they had to do, and there were a couple of moments in the match where they were teasing kill switch, turning on Christian, and they kind of set that up for what we would see later in the match here with the Patriarchy dropping the trios tags. I predicted them to win because they kind of just picked those belts up, and I thought they would continue rolling with the trios for a little while, but it made sense why they lost once you would see what Christian would do later on. What do you guys think was the match of the night? I'm going to have to say the main event. It's really impossible to not pick Danielson and Swerve because of how great that was. But if for any reason that match would have shit the bed, Mariah May and Toni Storm would have been match of the night. This lived up to every degree of the hype. Every degree. Sean Ross Sapp tweeted out after the match that Mariah May was actually pitched this entire storyline before she even signed with the company. This was what she was coming in to do. And this was a long story that has been told for the better part of a year. And it's been told well. Everything they've done, especially the major stuff like the Mariah May heel turn after winning the Owen tournament. I can't think of many segments on Dynamite that was better than that. And now it's about coming into this match and being able to execute this properly and stick the finish, stick the landing. And this finish was so fucking good. The match was good too. I mean, these women were beating the hell out of each other. Mariah May, completely ruthless. Mariah May has got her mother at ringside. And during the match, she goes to the outside and slaps her own mom in the face, knocking her to the ground. Toni Storm would be working her over, and Mariah May would wind up getting busted open. So now Mariah May is bleeding, and these women are having a heck of a fight. And Toni Storm is very, she tells a lot of stories with her emotions and with her face and, and with her voice and with her mannerisms. And there was a lot of intensity, in this fight. It was very bloody. It was very personal with everything that we've seen happen, leading up to this. And then they get to the finish, and Toni Storm has got her chin up and her tits out, and she's got the shoe, but she just can't bring herself to do it. Mariah May is on her knees. She's bleeding. She's helpless. All it's going to take is Toni blasting her right in the face with a shoe, and this thing is over. And she can't do it. She just can't do it. I think she throws the shoe down. Mariah takes immediate advantage of this and hits her with, oh my God, two of the best knee strikes I've ever seen. Hits her once to the back of the head and then off the ropes, and then bam, blasts her right in the face. I mean, maybe it was the camera angle, but it looked about as real as a knee strike can look. Completely blasts Toni Storm. Down she goes. 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, not yet. I'm sorry. She picks up Toni after she hits her with the 2 knee strikes and hits her with a Storm Zero, which also looks stiff as all hell. 1, 2, 3. Mariah May wins the championship. So great. Such a perfectly executed match and finish. Cannot say enough good things about that, and can't tell you how relieved I am, because this has been a story where you really needed to have a well-executed payoff, and they did. And for people who say AEW doesn't have stories, the hell they fucking don't. This has been one of their better ones, and I thought it was executed to perfection with Mariah May winning the championship. And that's what we said in our predictions. If you're following the storyline like you're following the movie, Mariah May is supposed to win the title here. So some big swerve, notwithstanding, Mariah May has got to win this here. But the little extra added emotion from Toni Storm, I think, is what really made it. Her struggling and being conflicted with hitting her with the shoe after everything that Mariah has done to her. You would think that would be an easy decision to make, but it wasn't, and it ended up costing her the championship. After the match, she's completely hysterical, delusional, out of her mind, doesn't even know what she feels. She's making all these crazy faces. She's crying and laughing at the same time, and the crowd is singing Toni Storm as she's serenading her as she leaves the ring, as she's just kind of looking around, and she's half sad, half happy, doesn't know what's going on. And that was just the whole entire package of that match was so perfectly done. I loved it. Congratulations to Mariah May, new AEW Women's Champion. She is tremendous. This whole story has been great, and I can't wait to see what they do now. If Toni Storm is going to alter this, jilted starlet type of character, or if this is going to snap her out of it and she's going to realize this character actually cost me my title. because I was conflicted with the shoe and all the shit. Maybe this is what she needs to shed the gimmick and go back to the Toni Storm with the hat and the thing under her eye. But I think this Toni Storm is great. I don't want to see this gimmick leave. Feels like it does have a shelf life, but it might not be something she can do forever, but I'm not necessarily ready to see it come to an end yet. This was all really good. If you like stories in your wrestling, this feud was for you. And on top of that, they were able to deliver an excellent match. And if it weren't for the strength of that amazing Swerve and Danielson main event, this would have been my match of the night. Excellent, excellent shit from these two women. Can't say enough good things about it. This next match, though, wasn't much. Chris Jericho defending the FTW title against Hook. Chris Jericho has got Fozzy there. Chris Jericho sings himself down to the ring. I don't know what song they were singing. He's all decked out in orange. Hi, guys. While he's doing the hey, guys, while he's singing. I got to admit that was kind of funny. Big Bill was a factor in this match. Big Bill has been a factor a lot lately. Fans are starting to take notice to this big bastard, and he might be on the verge of a push, and they might have set that in motion tonight with a split from Chris Jericho when Big Bill got knocked through the table when Jericho accidentally hit him with the kendo stick, and he just flat like a redwood, flat back bumped off the apron through the table that was sitting on the outside of the ring, and Bill was taken out. And I mentioned in my predictions that this could be a possibility of Taz getting involved because of all of the help and outside, backup that Jericho has with Bryan Keith and Big Bill. After Big Bill gets knocked through the table, Bryan Keith, who was already interfered a couple of times in this match, attempts to do it again. Taz is like, man, I'm trying to be unbiased. I'm trying just to sit here and do my job, but it's getting hard. And then he takes off the headset and he jumps up and he puts the Taz mission on Bryan Keith while Hook locks in the red rum on Jericho in the ring. Jericho taps out, he submits, and Hook wins back the FTW title. And I mentioned in the predictions that if Hook were to win the title back here, I wouldn't mind them doing something like retiring this championship, or maybe they do an in-ring segment where Hook gives the belt back to his dad. Hey, Dad, sorry I lost this. It's back with you now. It's back in the family where it belongs, and take it home and put it on the shelf, and let's not try worrying about defending that title any longer. So I did like Taz getting involved. That was a nice little touch. Reminded me a lot of SummerSlam 2000. I was there for that show in Raleigh when Lawler faced Taz and Jim Ross jumped off headset to help Jerry Lawler out. So fun stuff there. And Hook is the new FTW champion. But the match in the ring, I'd say Jericho and Hook, Mercedes and Britt were the two worst matches tonight. Probably by a mile. Oh, man, we got to get into the... Oh, no, it's not time for that yet. We're going to do the tag match next, and then we're going to answer these super chats, and then we'll talk about the gauntlet match. But we're going to talk about the AEW Tag Team Championship match next. This was the Young Bucks defending the AEW tag titles against FTR and the Acclaimed in a three-way, and the Bucks had a great special entrance inspired by Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band with the logo and the flowers and kind of like the album cover, set to the Young Bucks stuff. Very cool. They came out wearing the British gear or whatever. So kind of a Beatles-themed entrance for the Young Bucks. I did like it. I'm not going to lie. I liked it a lot. It was very cool. The Acclaimed were out next. Or I think FTR was out first, then the Bucks, then maybe Acclaimed. I can't remember the order of who came out when. But Max Caster did his rap. It was hard to hear him because of the acoustics in the building, but he got a few oohs and ahs from the crowd, so Max at least showed up to deliver a good rap to Wembley tonight. Not much to say about this match. I was only kind of partially paying attention to it because I was still in the process of trying to backtrack and see what I missed. But I did see the ending. EVP trigger to Dax. I thought Dax and the Acclaimed would cancel each other out and Max Caster would take the pin. Instead, it was Dax eating the EVP trigger. And finally, now that CM Punk wasn't there to cause backstage distractions, the Young Bucks could focus and win. Wow. I'm so happy for them that they finally were able to focus on a match and actually win the match. But they weren't able to focus for very long, because after they won the match, the grizzled young vets hit the ring, stand behind them, face off with the Bucks, and the Bucks back off and retreat. And then the Grizzleds turn their attention to FTR, who are trying to recover from the loss, and beat the shit out of them and hit their finisher on Cash Wheeler. Kind of a lukewarm reaction for the Grizzleds. I thought the fans would be a little bit more aware of who they were. And they've been talked and rumored to be coming into AEW since, I believe, June of this year. So now that they are officially finally there, hopefully that will help add some much-needed spice to the tag team division, which seems like it's gotten a little stale since the Bucks became, these douchey characters and aren't really doing much to defend those tag team championships. But the match itself, but it was cool to see the Grizzleds show up and confront the tag team division. We have the Casino Gauntlet match next, and there's a lot to unpack there. So before we do that, let me cruise over here to the chat and just knock out these supers. Joshua Aparicio says he took a dump during the Jericho match. Who won? Not Jericho. Jermaine Blackwood, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Back in my hotel from All In London. Crowd was unhappy with the flat and abrupt endings to the TBS, Coffin, and Gauntlet matches. Swerve all-out rematch. That's I'm glad to hear that. I was curious about some of the on-site reactions from All In. I'm glad you had a good time. I'm hoping you had a good time. And now that you're back safe and sound, Jermaine, in your hotel, I can see the TBS and the Coffin match. I can understand that, and the Gauntlet. I can actually understand all three of these, because the TBS match we're going to talk about later was a monumental letdown. Holy shit. And my predictions, I'm thinking that this match might be pretty good, might be a show stealer. Oh, no, it wasn't. And the Coffin match, I am not going to blame on Jack and Darby. I feel like their time got cut. It just felt like by the time that match got out there, they needed to shave some minutes off. So it felt abrupt. And then the Gauntlet match with the winner that we're going to talk about in a minute, I think surprised a lot of people, because he was on nobody's radar at all, including mine. And in terms of a Swerve all-out rematch, Jermaine, they're going to have to do something. All Out is in 2 weeks. So you're going to have a rematch there. But I think it might be... Well, shit, it might have to be a rematch. I kind of was thinking Swerve would have a chance to win the belt back in Wrestle Dream. Isn't Swerve from Washington, too? Aren't both these guys from Washington? I know Darby is too. Maybe everybody's from Washington. Or maybe he's from, I forgot where Swerve's from. But you could do Swerve and Danielson again at Wrestle Dream, which is in Tacoma, I believe. But you'd have to do something for All Out, and you would assume Danielson might defend the title, is probably going to defend the title at All Out. That might be where he gets the Christian match. I feel like Swerve might face Hangman first. Maybe the winner of that gets the title shot at Wrestle Dream or something like that. I'm not sure if the match is going to happen at All Out. And I kind of don't want it to, because I don't think Danielson is going to drop the championship until Wrestle Dream at the very, very earliest. So if Swerve gets a rematch at All Out, that means Swerve's not going to win. The next time Swerve has a championship match, I'd like to see Swerve win. So I would hold off on giving Swerve a rematch against Danielson until Wrestle Dream. That's what I would do. But we'll find out a lot, I think, on Wednesday on that. Chris Ludek, 5 from you, my friend. I liked Mariah May being busted open as a callback to when Mariah first turned on Tony. Great match, great story, second best of the night. Tony absolutely had to bust her open. She had to. Receipt. Why she couldn't pull the trigger on the shoe, I don't know, especially how violent and brutal Mariah May was to her when she turned on her. It's not like there's some conflicting emotions here. You should hate this woman. And I liked the performance and the execution of the whole thing. It was really good. You're right. And Spectra, thanks for the $9.99, man. I'm going to use you to buy my WWE Network this month. Because how much is it? How much is it, JBL? How about JBL turning up in GCW last night? Beating up Effie? That's cool. Cool and random. That's why I like wrestling. Let's read the Spectre Super Chat. Will at MJF was my favorite match. Really liked the main and the Mariah match as well. Missed the Bucks match. Was it good? Nah. Didn't see the pre-show. Thought Saraya was going to reunite with Tony after losing. Yeah, Saraya got her ass whooped by Jamie Hayter on the pre-show. There was so much going on with the Tony and Mariah May stuff. I wouldn't have wanted a whole new story beat to start at the end of that match. Let it breathe. And if Saraya and Tony are going to have some reunion, have that be, in a couple weeks or whatever. But if you are voting MJF and Will Ospreay as your favorite match, I can't argue with you. I really did love the main event. I did, but I can understand anyone who would say Ospreay and MJF was the best match of the night, because that one was a banger, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but not before we talk about the Casino Gauntlet match. Now, going into this, I only knew one competitor. When we did the predictions on Thursday, I knew one person in this match. That was Orange Cassidy. I predicted Hangman Page, who at the time was not announced for the match, but he became announced for the match. So there was going to be, I don't know how many were in this, 20-something people, or however many people were in this gauntlet match. And I was also kind of confused on the rules. At first, I was thinking it was a battle royal during the predictions. I'm like, no, shit, it's a gauntlet match, but it's not like a WWE gauntlet match where you wait till the finish before you send the next person out. You send somebody out every, 2 minutes or whatever it is, and whoever gets the first pinfall wins the whole thing. So this is not elimination or anything like that. And I was thinking it might be an elimination, which is why I was hesitant in my predictions to predict Ricochet showing up in this thing, because I'm like, is he going to come out and just lose his first match? But he didn't have to get pinned because it's not elimination. So we opened up the match with two great people to start. Number one, Orange Cassidy, who had an awesome special entrance that was like this animated deal. And then he came out to the ring, and oh my God, my mark out moment of the night was the wide shot. They might have done this last year too, I just don't remember. They did a wide shot of the stadium, overhead of the stadium, where they show pyro normally coming off of the roof. But it was just the one it was just the one little pyro flame from Cassidy. They actually did the wide shot of the stadium to show that one little pyro firework going off. I died. I fucking died. And Okada was out at number 2. So it was Orange Cassidy and Okada kicking things off. Okada got a massive ovation from the audience, and Okada and Cassidy got things going to start the match. And then out at number 3 was a returning Nigel McGuinness. It's Nigel. We thought Nigel and Danielson were going to have a match this year, dating all the way back to last year. Nigel comes out to Oasis fucking in the bushes. So Tony Khan paying for more money here. Out comes Nigel. Huge ovation here. And I like the story of him coming out, because this is him kind of maybe betting on Danielson. When he came out, I was kind of hoping he would win. I'm like, oh my God, Nigel could win. Danielson could win the title. And then there you go. We're getting that Nigel and Danielson match that we've been wanting to see. So Nigel being out here, being back in the ring for the first time in a while, was just wild to see. He's in there doing all his British wrestling spots and all his classic Nigel moves. A lot of fun. We had Kyle O'Reilly out at number 4, Zack Sabre Jr. out at number 5, and it was really fun to see him mix it up with Nigel, Zack and Nigel. That was fun. We had Roderick Strong and Mark Briscoe coming out after that. Then we had Hangman Page, followed by Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett gets a huge pop from the audience, and then while Karen Jarrett is on the apron, jawing with Hangman Page, it's time for the next participant to come out, and it is, in fact, Mr. O'Shea. Ricochet is here. Out he comes. Looks very much like he did in WWE, same type of outfit. I couldn't quite get a grasp on how his music sounds, but my God, did this guy have a spring in his step. I mean, he gets in the ring. He seemed like he was faster, crisper, more agile and athletic than ever. I'm like, did WWE not allow him to be this quick, and fast in the ring? Because he was all over the place. Very impressive in his debut here, and I think the fans really enjoyed seeing him out there. Now, we had Christian coming out after that, followed by Killswitch or Luchasaurus. And Christian comes out first, And when Luchasaurus comes out, the fans are pretty excited because of what was going on in the London Ladders match. They think that this is going to be Luchasaurus' big turn that they've teased, so many times in the past. He comes out, he grabs, I think, hold of Christian to tease a choke slam, but then turns his attention to Kyle O'Reilly and nails Kyle O'Reilly instead. Then he picks up Christian again, so the fans think that he's going to choke slam him. He just had to get Kyle O'Reilly out of the way first, but oh no, he picks up Christian only to throw Christian right on top of Kyle O'Reilly. The referee counts the 1, 2, 3, and Christian wins the Casino Gauntlet match. So now Christian has won double duty, and according to the announcers, this title match is good for whenever Christian wants to cash it in. So sounds like he could potentially maybe even interrupt a match in progress and add himself to it, which made me worried that he might actually turn up in the main event and insert himself into Danielson and Swerve, which would mean Christian did triple duty at the show. He lost a championship, won a championship shot, and then won a championship all in one show. I was so nervous that might actually happen, but it did not. He holds on to that contract to get a world title shot at any time and place of his choosing. So we'll have to see when he chooses to cash that in. Now, they did it with like the MJF poker chip. I don't know if it's like a Money in the Bank cash in, if you can just run right out there and say, I want the shot right now. So Christian could be getting this shot at All Out. He could be the one facing Danielson at All Out, with Danielson beating him. And then maybe Danielson goes into Grand Slam, which I thought was where the Darby Allen match was going to happen, and beats Darby Allen, then going into Wrestle Dream in October to maybe drop the belt back to Swerve Strickland. But they might switch some stuff up. It might be Swerve getting the Grand Slam title shot, and maybe Darby beats Danielson for the title at Wrestle Dream. Try to give Darby a run before next year when he's got to go climb Mount Everest and potentially die. You want to get a run out of Darby before he dies. So maybe that's what they're doing. I'm not really sure the order of these title matches, when we're going to see what match take place, but there's a lot going on at the top right now that Christian has won the match. That was kind of a letdown. Normally, I'm a fan of everything that Christian does. Everything. Even when he's refereeing a match, he's stealing the fucking show. I am never going to complain about having too much Christian. But I think that match kind of caught a lot of fans off guard, and it might have been viewed as a letdown by some. I saw some people complaining about it. I don't think I loved it very much. I mean, I get it, but I also didn't really like it. And he might not have been the person I would have chosen to win that match. You know what I mean? But let me know if you liked or disliked Christian's championship title shot that he's now earned after winning the gauntlet. He was not even on my radar to win that, to be in that match, much less win it. So we will see when Christian's title shot will come. All right, after that, it was a great one. My God, MJF versus Will Ospreay for the American Championship. So this was so good. Will Ospreay had this amazing special entrance. It reminded me of The Office, the parkour, where they're all just diving off shit. It was kind of like a breakdance and parkour combo. He had a breakdancer spinning on her head. She was very good, very talented, and a bunch of dudes doing flips all over the place as Ospreay comes down to his banger of a fucking entrance theme. The crowd is chanting or singing him to the ring. He gets the big pyro treatment. Amazing pyro from outside the arena. The whole presentation was just awesome. Very cool to see him make that entrance and soak that up from the audience. MJF was out next in full fucking Uncle Sam gear. Shout out to our friend Steve of Going Raw podcast a couple weeks ago. He put on social media that MJF should come out and do an entrance like Apollo Creed did in Rocky IV with Living in America playing. And MJF, he was close. MJF had the same outfit, fucking hat and the whole deal, but if Tony Khan's spending all this money on songs, why couldn't he buy the rights to Living in America? That would have been so amazing if MJF came out to that. But all in the USA gear was pretty good. And then when he took it off, he's wearing full-blown 1993 Lex Luger trunks. Lex Luger USA gear. He's duplicated Lex's trunks from his USA days. He should have came out in the Max Express. What a missed opportunity. Imagine Max's special entrance driving up to the arena in the Max Express. Then he gets out of the Max Express, comes down to the ring, wearing the outfit that he wore tonight while living in America, plays, comes out dancing. He's got backup dancers, the whole fucking shebang. And then Will Ospreay kills him. If he dies, he dies. Oh, that would have been so good. The Max Express. What? Oh, man. Tony Khan. Got to think about these things, man. Missed opportunity on the Max Express there. But all in all, fun entrances from both guys. However, I don't think AEW thought the streamers through. When Max made his entrance, they dropped all these red, white, and blue streamers from the ceiling, and they got all hung up in the canopy there and on the trusses and all that shit. So they're kind of like hanging. And for the first 5 or 10 minutes of the match, some of them were still falling into the ring. And I think that would have been, for me anyway, would have been pretty distracting as a wrestler having to worry about this shit, kind of, messing up my vision or whatnot. So I'm not sure if they thought all that through. Those things really hung around. It felt like they dissipated by the time we got, I can't even remember if I saw them by the time we got to the main event. So I don't know if they were able to get up there or people on the catwalk were able to pull them off or whatever, but they were hanging from the canopy for this match and the one after that as well. So I'm not sure they really thought that through, but the match itself was everything we would expect and more. What do you guys think? Where does this one rank compared to the hour-long match? It's hard for me to vote against that hour-long match on Dynamite. That was really good. This one was also tremendous, but I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and watch both matches again. I'd have to watch the hour one and watch this one, but I still think we got to give the nod to their hour-long match that MJF won in terms of which one of these two was the better match. But this was still an amazing match. So many good spots here. I think one of my favorites was Ospreay hitting the shooting star press on MJF, who was kind of like draped over the top rope, like on his stomach. And then Ospreay hits the shooting star from the top rope, lands on Max, which then springboards Max all the way over into a flip, lands in the ring. Just really cool spot. There was a Canadian destroyer on the apron that Max delivered to Ospreay that nearly killed Ospreay. It's probably, in all my years watching wrestling, I think it's the closest count out I've ever seen. Like, Ospreay's trying to get back in the ring. Referee's counting. He's up to 7. He's up to 8. He gets up to 9. So Ospreay is basically like almost on the apron. The referee is on 9 and he falls. He falls back down to the floor. And I'm like, wait a minute, are we going to get a count out? But he springs right back up and dives in the ring like in a millisecond of time. I don't know if maybe Ospreay thought the referee said 8. Maybe he was up to 8 and he fell back down to the floor. It was almost like the ref didn't know what to do. Oh shit, do I count 10? Kind of takes his time, and Ospreay is able to dive into under the bottom rope at the very last minute. So that was really cool, and a super, super close near count out there by Will Ospreay. MJF later is on the outside of the ring. Ospreay's on the apron. He goes for the running hidden blade, but Max moves, and Ospreay delivers a hidden blade to the cameraman, knocks out the cameraman. Kind of reminded me of the WrestleMania 12 spot where Brett, I'm pretty sure he gets knocked into the lap of Tony Chimmel, the old ring announcer, and Sean comes in with a super kick. Brett misses, and Sean just blasts Chimmel right in the face. They have to stretcher his ass out of there. It was a lot like that, and that cameraman ate the hidden blade pretty stiffly there. It was awesome. So later on, Max gets his championship belt from the outside of the ring. He nails Ospreay with it, and Ospreay is able to kick out. I don't know if the ref didn't see the belt. I don't know how MJF, I didn't write down, there wasn't a ref bump, but I guess ref didn't see MJF nail Will Ospreay with the belt. Oh, I think he's going to nail Will Ospreay with the belt. The ref sees it, tries to fight it away, and gets knocked down briefly, and MJF blasts Ospreay. I forgot how the sequence went, but Ospreay got nailed with the belt. 1-2, kick out. MJF immediately picks him up into a brainbuster, 1, 2, and another kick out. So 2 really close, super close near falls back to back there with the belt shot and with the brainbuster. After that is when we get the ref bump. And down go, it was a Bryce, I forgot who the referee was. Ref goes down. Ospreay then, and we were going to see at some point the Tiger Driver. They've been telling the story throughout this little issue between the two, so you knew we were going to get a Tiger Driver spot in this match. I was kind of expecting it to be the finish, but I also thought we could see it just in the middle of the match if Ospreay decides to hit it out of nowhere. So after the ref bump, Ospreay teases the Tiger Driver. He starts putting Max in position. That's when Max comes in with the low blow, nailing Will Ospreay. And that's when a hooded figure shows up on the apron, and he nails MJF and then reveals himself to be Daniel Garcia. So Daniel Garcia has returned to AEW. Like I said earlier, according to Wrestle Purists, he is not re-signed with them yet. His contract still is up in October, but Tony Khan is choosing to use him and I guess trust that he's going to be sticking around. And Garcia then showed up, nailed MJF, allowing Will Ospreay to recover and hit MJF with a hidden blade, and then set him up for, you guessed it, the Tiger Driver. Picked him up, nailed him with a brutal one. Crowd lost their shit. 1, 2, 3. Ospreay beats MJF with help from Daniel Garcia and does beat him with the Tiger Driver after teasing it and getting low blowed. Was able to nail him with it for the finish. And a really fun match and a really fun finish. And seeing Will Ospreay being handed the American title, but he doesn't want it. He motions for the international title. Christopher Daniels is out there with the belt. He brings it in the ring, presents it to Will Ospreay. Like I said in my predictions, I expected him to bust out the international title. I really thought it would be weird for him to celebrate with that American title. So now that he has the international title back, it's back to being the international title. He celebrates, gets the big moment, and all of this was super fun. Now we'll see if MJF is going to blame Garcia and then still walk around with the American Championship, claiming that he's the American champion. Let's hope they don't do that. There are already way too many belts in the company for me. So MJF continuing to be the American champion beyond this, I don't want to see that. I hope that Will Ospreay now is just the international champion going forward. And another interesting part of this match that wasn't mentioned, and I didn't hear the commentators mention it at all. They might have, I just didn't hear it. Earlier on in the day on social media, MJF said that his Dynamite Diamond ring was stolen. Stupid England, bunch of thieves over here, lost my ring. My ring got stolen. Fuck these people, basically, is what his tweet said. So is that I was assuming that that was going to play a role in the match later, like he got his ring stolen so that he can't use it in the match. So does that mean Daniel Garcia is the one that stole the ring? I feel like Daniel Garcia is the one that stole the ring. I didn't hear the announcers make any mention of this at all. So that might be the story, unless Max's tweet about losing the ring was legit. He actually did get his diamond ring stolen, but shouldn't he have like 3 of them? Didn't he win 3 of these things? I guess you retain the ring. You don't have multiple rings. So I guess it's just the one ring. But he said he got it stolen, and I can only guess or assume that in storyline, it's going to be Daniel Garcia was the one that maybe snuck in the back and stole the ring out of MJF's gear so he can't attempt to use it, and he never did attempt to pull it out in the match. So I might have been too distracted. I might have been busy tweeting, so I don't know if Excalibur, who's usually good, really good about filling us in on all the story beats and whatnot, I'm not sure if he was making mention during the match that MJF did not have the Dynamite Diamond ring to use or utilize or pull out of his trunks. Don't know if they mentioned that or not, but it was a non-issue anyway, a non-factor, and as expected, Will Ospreay does defeat MJF to regain the International Championship. And I'm very happy with that match and that outcome. That was the way it needed to go. And now you have set yourself up here for one hell of a rubber match scenario if you want to do one more between these guys at All Out. or Grand Slam or Wrestle Dream or wherever, you got an opportunity to do that. And I think we're probably going to get a match between Garcia and MJF as well. But I would not go get rolling too much with Garcia unless you know he's staying or going. Once it's official and he's signed and he's got an extension, then you can book him however you want. But you also have him now in a position to where if he does decide to still go to WWE, you can now do a match with MJF and MJF can beat him and send him out the door. But I'm kind of hoping at this point, since we saw Garcia, that Garcia ends up sticking around. And it's funny too that MJF was wearing the Luger gear because, you know, Luger back in 1995, SummerSlam 1995, I remember, you know, calling the hotlines prior to SummerSlam, hearing about Lex Luger potentially going to WCW. We knew about this, or I remember hearing about this in August prior to SummerSlam, weeks before he showed up on the first Nitro. So this idea that he shocked the world, not really. There were rumblings a month earlier of Lex possibly leaving the WWE. And I remember a couple of days before SummerSlam hearing in the hotlines that Luger was as good as gone to WCW. And then he showed up in the main event of SummerSlam. A lot of people don't remember that during Diesel and Mabel's match, Luger showed up and helped out Diesel. And then I think it was just a week later was when Nitro was, or maybe a week and a half, something like that. So, or a couple weeks. I guess that would have been August and Nitro was September 1st. But point is, he made an appearance when we thought he was good as gone. So, you know, maybe this is Garcia's same thing. He did make an appearance, show up in a big pay-per-view match to affect the outcome, but ultimately he's going to bounce anyway. Kind of weird. Might be a little bit of a connection there, but just made me think of it since MJF was rocking the Luger trunks tonight. Good match, man. That was so much fun. Can't say enough good things about MJF and Will Ospreay. I think my biggest disappointment of the night was Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. Now, I mentioned in the predictions, and I mentioned yesterday in the podcast how much I liked the contract signing on Wednesday between Baker and Mercedes. And what that contract signing showed me was that Britt Baker is much better than Mercedes Moné on the mic. I enjoy listening to Britt speak more than Mercedes. Britt seems more genuine. Britt seems more real. Mercedes seems like she's playing that, you know, just character. And Britt Baker, just, I like her promo style infinitely more than Mercedes Moné. However, Mercedes is a better wrestler. The lack of excitement for this match, and the reason I think it felt flat, is because Mercedes was in there with Britt. She just wasn't cutting it in this match. I'm sorry. I was really hoping for this match to be good because, as I mentioned yesterday in the podcast and in the predictions, you know, with two women's matches on the show, both on paper look great. Toni Storm and Mariah May, we've been following that story. We know that's going to kick ass. And Britt Baker and Mercedes, up until this point, has really been a dream match for a lot of fans. So I was hoping that there would be like a friendly rivalry, friendly competition between these four women. Mariah and Toni want their match to be the best, and Britt and Mercedes want their match to be the best. But there was no comparison whatsoever. I think Toni Storm and Mariah May could make an argument that they had the best match on the card, and Britt and Mercedes can make an argument that they had the worst. These two matches were nothing alike at all, and it was tough to watch a little bit of this. And on top of that, well, I'll get to the stuff, the finish here in a minute. I should mention that Mercedes Moné had a special entrance with, I don't know, some British car, and she had a dog in there. She had this whole special deal. Came down not too bad. The match itself, like I said, wasn't great. They had Camille out there as expected. I thought Camille was just going to cost Britt Baker the win, or cost Britt Baker the match, but they did do kind of a fun spot. They did a little bit of an Eddie Guerrero type of thing. Mercedes tries to use her belt, but referee Paul Turner stops her, and then Britt Baker is out there with Camille, who is now up on the ring apron, and she eddies Camille. I think she ends up falling straight down because Camille is holding the New Japan Strong title. So even though Mercedes had her TBS title that she tried to use, that Paul Turner stopped her from using, Camille's got the New Japan Strong title. So Baker intentionally falls to the mat just as the referee turns around to see her laying there and seeing Camille standing on the apron holding a weapon. So Paul Turner then tosses Camille out of the match, but it wouldn't matter. In the end, we get a Panama Sunrise to Mercedes, followed by a stomp for a very, very close near fall. So that's as close as Britt Baker actually got to win in this match. We would wind up getting Mercedes locking Britt Baker in her very, very horrible finish. Even though I think Mercedes is the superior wrestler between these two, this finish ain't it. Moneymaker to Britt Baker for the win, but the Moneymaker looks like shit. I have seen like one good one. I've seen one Moneymaker delivered that I thought where it looked okay. Otherwise, this move has got to be changed. This is worse than Shawn Michaels' teardrop suplex. At least he knew how to execute that. It just didn't feel like much of a finisher. Didn't feel like a move that should end a match. Neither does this Moneymaker because it rarely lands well. It rarely looks good. It looks like shit 90% of the time. Doesn't look like it hurts at all. Getting hit with the Moneymaker would be like me just falling out of the chair onto the carpet. I'd get right back up and continue the stream. I don't know why I'm falling out of my chair, but I feel like the Moneymaker hurts about the same amount as it would if I were to fall out of my chair right now onto the floor. I just get back up. All right, where were we? You know, this thing's not a finisher. It's awful. It's awful. It's terrible. Mercedes, I'm begging you. Just stick with the, what does she call the bank statement now? Whatever the fuck that is. Stick to that. This Moneymaker is ass. It's just a bad finish. Doesn't mean you're a bad wrestler. Doesn't mean because somebody has a shit finisher doesn't mean they're a shit wrestler. It just means they have a shit finisher. That's all. You can change your finisher. I think Mercedes is a good enough wrestler to where she can come up with something way better than the Moneymaker because I have yet to see a good one. I've yet to see that move delivered and I said, wow, that was badass. Not once. And I want to. I don't take any joy in this. So much negativity and fans like to complain about everything because I think there's a part of them that gets off on it and makes their little 2-inch dicks hard. Not me. I don't want Mercedes' finisher to suck. I want it to be good. So I want Mercedes to find a new finisher. I'm not doing this because I take joy in shitting on someone. I'm doing this because I want Mercedes to have a better finisher. Moneymaker sucks. Find something better, Mercedes. Jack Perry was up next defending his TNT championship against Darby Allen in a coffin match. I love AEW's coffin matches because, number one, they're calling it a coffin match, not a casket match. And it's just their version, you know, of a casket match, but they present them differently. Number one, they're using an actual coffin. In WWE, it started out, it was actually the first ever casket match was called a coffin match. It was Undertaker and Kamala. But even then, these things weren't coffins. They were boxes. They were big, giant pine boxes, big enough for somebody like a Kamala or somebody like a Yokozuna, a double deep, a double wide casket. So they built the double deep, double wide casket for Yoko in 94, but continued to use the double deep, double wide casket for every casket match they ever did. A couple of times they had actual caskets like you would see in funeral homes. They did the twin diesel in one of those, and you know, they've used them a few times here or there, but never in the match itself, where in AEW, they have actual coffins, not something that they built, but a coffin. Like they went down to the fucking funeral parlor and bought a coffin. And those things are so small. Those are the coffins and the caskets they used to have in the funeral parlor segments. That's the one where Undertaker locked Ultimate Warrior in there. You know, those things are small and claustrophobic. I would not want to be in there at all. And every coffin match we've seen in AEW has been all kinds of fun because they can use the coffin. Essentially, the coffin match is kind of like a ladder match. They are using the coffin as a weapon where you didn't really have that opportunity in WWE casket matches because the thing was so fucking big and it was on wheels and it had to be out there. You could throw people on it, get slammed on it, chop a hole in it, pour gas in it, light it on fire. You can do stuff like that. But in terms of using the coffin as an actual weapon and incorporating it into the match, like we saw last year in the tag with the Coffin. I think Swerve got closed on it, and then Darby Coffin dropped his leg when it was in the, oh my God, it was such a mess. And here it was the same thing. The first thing they do is they pull off the Coffin, set it up, and Darby torpedoes into it and knocks it all down. So I like AEW Coffin matches because they're different. They're not just like a casket match. They're kind of like a casket match, ladder match combination, to where in AEW you can get a lot more creative with the use of the casket than you could in WWE. And I love these matches. Now, unfortunately, like I said, it felt like the time on this got cut because it was an abrupt finish. It caught me off guard. I was still typing my notes. I was typing the Darby bump off the stage. I was still writing down like Jack duct tapes Darby's hands, throws him off the stage, and then boom, the finish happens. I'm like, holy shit. But before we got to that finish, we had some fun stuff first. After they brawl for a little bit in the ring, like I said, they stand the casket up long ways on the outside, and Darby just does his running torpedo right into it, knocking it all to hell. And that's when, shortly after that, is when Jack Perry goes to retrieve a bag from the outside of the ring. And as soon as he picked up that bag, I knew exactly what was in it. I knew that it was not thumbtacks. By the way, it looked like what was going on with Darby's face? It almost looked like he has thumbtacks pushed in his face. I hope he didn't actually do that. I hope they're just glued on. But pretty interesting look for Darby here. And Jack Perry pulls out the bag, and like I said, it was not thumbtacks. It was... what was it? It was glass. It was real glass. At least I think. It would have been hilarious if that was actually fake glass. It might have been. It was very, very blue. So it might have been windshield glass. Did you notice when he dumped it out, it was kind of blue? It kind of looked like Breaking Bad meth. So I think that's like how windshield glass looks. When you smash a windshield, it kind of is a little bluer in tint. It didn't look like glass from like a broken bottle or a broken window that could really fuck you up. This almost looked like it was windshield glass, or maybe even sugar glass. Look, sugar glass. Cry me a Sprite. So not sure which it was, but it might have been like glass from a car windshield. And of course, as soon as Jack Perry dumps the glass out, he takes an immediate bump onto it. So Darby knocks him onto it. Jack takes a flat back bump on the glass. He is cut up. You can see blood on him, but I don't think it was like the type of blood. It wasn't the same type of glass that Darby landed on. That glass pane that broke to shit, at Revolution. This felt like it was different type of real glass, but glass either way. And I love that they incorporated glass into this match. You had to. I forgot to mention that in my predictions, but I've been thinking about it for a while, ever since this match was made. I'm like, Jack has to do something with glass at All In. So he gets that out, takes the bump on it. That was pretty funny, that he was the one that suffered from the glass. A little bit after that is when he goes and finds the duct tape, and he starts duct taping Darby Allen's hands together, starts beating the shit out of him, drags him all the way up the aisleway and up onto the stage by the entrance, where he throws Darby, whose hands are taped together, who can't even break his fall, throws him right off the stage onto a couple of tables that were kind of tablecloths. So hopefully there was, a little bit of a crash pad to help with the landing there on Darby. And then after Darby takes that bump, Jack follows him out and gets the body bag that he's been dragging out to the ring during his matches. He gets the body bag. He puts Darby Allen in the body bag. Now he's dragging him back down the ramp to put Darby, who's in the body bag, into the casket. That is double nightmare for me. I am extremely painfully, cripplingly claustrophobic. And just looking at Darby in that body bag and having to be in there when you're breathing heavy and you're sweating and you're hot and having to be in there zipped up, then they throw in you a casket and close the lid, you're going to suffocate and die. So he's dragging Darby in the fucking bag down to the coffin, puts Darby in the coffin, and that's when Darby kind of like resurrects like a zombie. He pokes his head through the body bag and he's bleeding and he's just, it's a really awesome visual. He really did look like a zombie that was coming up through a grave. But then Jack, I think, hits him with a knee strike. Down he goes, boom, closes the lid. and wins the match. So luckily, Darby didn't have to be completely zipped up in the body bag and put in the casket. He was able to poke his head through, but then Jack was able to close the lid and win the match and retain the TNT Championship. But it was a match ending that felt very, very abrupt. Felt like it happened pretty quick. And like I said, I was kind of typing when the finish happened. I'm like, oh, that's it. Now, I predicted the match correctly. I figured Jack would win another TNT title run for Darby, which I believe would be his 4th. Felt a little pointless to me. Plus, Jack just forged that new title and repurposed the whole championship to this badass-looking custom design that he has. I want to see the scapegoat continue to scapegoat for a while, so I was happy to see him win. I just think the ending was a little bit abrupt. Maybe that's because they were, number one, running short on time, and they had a lot of stuff, number two, planned for the ending of this match. Once the match is over, out come the young fucks. They got a gallon of gasoline. They are pouring it all over the coffin, and then Jack gets the lighter. He's got the flame lit. Out go the lights. And Metallica starts playing. You know who's coming. It's Sting. Sting is here. We had a feeling he would be. We heard he was heading over to London. I mentioned in my predictions that if he was going to get involved in this match, that would make me think Darby was going to win, but he waited until after the match to get involved. They had a perfect way to incorporate him with the Bucks the Bucks and Jack trying to end Darby Allen, and Sting comes out here to make the save. But you can tell that Sting has been retired because he had to do a really quick dye job on his hair that looked so terrible that he actually looked like the fake Sting from WCW back in the 90s. Didn't even look like himself because he's probably been at home enjoying retirement, not dyeing his hair, so his hair is getting back to a sandy brown or even a grayish color that it normally is. So you could see he even has his head painted black, and then he's got like a really kind of like aggressive dye job in the front there, and in the back it's still a little bit light colored. So they kind of had to get him ready for this last minute, and he did not look like the Sting that we saw prior to his retirement earlier this year in February. But it was still a great moment for the Wembley crowd. And hearing, is it Seek and Destroy or Search and Destroy? Seek and Destroy. Great song, perfect for Sting. Crowd just fucking loved it, ate it up. He comes in the ring. Jack Perry's smart man runs off because Sting's got the baseball bat, and then he hits both young bucks with a double scorpion death drop and saves Darby Allen's life. So even though Darby lost, we got the nice moment with Sting at the end, and he did hit the Bucks with a death drop. So even though Sting's already had his last match, he did get physical here. And he did say, we knew that Revolution wouldn't be the last time we would ever see Sting. I pitched that maybe Sting might come out to the ring with Tony Khan to announce the attendance, or to maybe announce the new media rights deal for TBS, TNT, and hopefully maybe a streaming deal on Max, or something that they could deliver to the UK audience there. But instead, he came out and got involved here at the end and saved the life of Darby Allen. That's why Sting is the man. Also want to wish his sons well. The one feller, I just started following him on social media, just looks exactly like Sting from the 80s. If you just look at a picture of Sting without makeup from the 80s and you look at his son, it's the same fucking guy. And I think he's training to become a wrestler. I believe his wife also wrestles on the indie level. There were some pictures of them in London this week on social media and one backstage today. And I just cannot get over how much his kids, especially that one, looks like him. And if he is going to get in the ring, I wish the kid all the best, man. All the best. Yo, Juliet, thank you. Blunt Object is now a member thanks to the Juliet, because the Juliet is awesome. All right, that leaves us with our tremendous main event. My God, it's got the feels going, man. I ain't going to lie. Watching this whole thing unfold and the celebration, it was one of those things where I stood up out of my chair and put my hands on my hips and just kind of watched it. You're like, for real, you just love this. You live for this as a wrestling fan. You live for matches like this. You live for moments like this, main events like this. You live for baby faces like this getting their moment. And Danielson arguably the best in the world. And what's so great about Danielson and why the wrestling business is so lucky to have him is that not only is he a great wrestler with completely unanimous respect from everybody in the business, WWE, AEW, Tony Khan, Triple H, does not matter who you are, what company we work for, or what part of the wrestling landscape you occupy. Everybody loves and respects Bryan Danielson. And on top of that, he's a pretty decent human being outside the ring. I mean, he's Mick Foley levels of wholesome. He is a family man. He's down to earth. He's very humble. He's not a jackass. And he's just a tremendous professional wrestler in the ring. He's a great babyface. He's a great heel. He's a great worker. Everything he does is great. And I'm a huge Danielson fan, and he was going into this match, title versus career, saying that if he loses here, he will retire, and he will stay retired. Now, of course, he was going to have his family at ringside. Bree was going to be there. Birdie was going to be there. And Buddy, that's his son's name. So it's Bree, Birdie, and Buddy. Bryan, Bree, he's one of those families. Oh, man. I just put that together. So does that mean they've got, oh, man, on the back of their SUV, does he have the Stick family? He's got the Stick family, doesn't he? That's okay. That's okay. You know what? Future VP Walls has a Stick family as well, I'm sure, on his car. But Danielson probably has the Stick family. They all got the same first initial of their name. They probably have T-shirts and a bunch of weird shit in their house and on the refrigerator. But that's okay. That's why we love Danielson. That's why he's such a good dude. That's why you always want to see people like him succeed. And going into this match against Swerve, the way they were setting all of this up on TV. Now, I made some wild predictions, on Thursday. I predicted Danielson to win, but I was like, hey, don't rule out Shane O'Mac showing up, helping out Danielson. And Danielson turns heel and shakes hands with Shane McMahon, the way Austin shook hands with Vince at WrestleMania 17. But the more and more you thought about it, with them, playing the Green Day song on Dynamite, and Danielson, really talking about his family and just really laying on thick the emotion and what's going to happen when he retires and the promises he's made to his family and his children and all of that stuff. When you factor all of that in and you tally it all up, I could not see any outcome tonight other than him walking out with the title. As much as I would have loved it for Swerve, for this to be the feather in his cap, and you know what? It still could. You're going to have another one of these matches potentially for Danielson in his hometown at Wrestle Dream in a couple of months. You could still do it there. But as much as I would have loved to have Swerve have that feather in his cap, to me, he was already a made man. This whole story has been great. Swerve has been playing his role perfectly here, and I think he almost like he wouldn't need this accolade to be a made man. He already is one. He has completely convinced me, much like Damian Priest has in WWE, that he's main eventer, and him and Priest both. I might give a slight nod to Swerve's run, but I feel like I was equally proud of Priest in WWE. Swerve and Priest both. This little run they've had from the spring to the end of the summer here, I thought were both really solid, even though they were small and short. They were both solid runs, and they both, to me, established themselves as people that fans should consider main eventers going forward. And I don't think Swerve should ever be anything other than a title contender from here on out. And I also don't believe that Swerve has won his one and only world championship. I think he will hold not only a world championship, but that very AEW world championship again. I don't think this run that Danielson is on, I'm so happy he's AEW champion, but I don't think it's going to last very long, and I would potentially put the belt right back on Swerve in a couple of months. And they did a couple things in this match that made you think they might do that. Now, both men tonight had spectacular entrances. Danielson came out to the final countdown. And that's what I love about international crowds and crowds in Europe and the UK and stuff, is that y'all are so fun. Like when they were singing Danielson to the ring, but they weren't just singing the words, they were singing the melody. The fans were going, Just shit like that is so much fun. And so they sang him all the way down to the ring. Tremendous entrance for Danielson. And you could just feel it. There was something in the air. JR, by the way, I should mention, did sit in on commentary for this. Called Danielson, Daniel Bryan, I think twice by my count, which he always does that. And in all honesty, I do that a lot too, but I have a YouTube channel. I don't work for AEW. I'm allowed to say Daniel Bryan and fuck up because I just have a YouTube channel. But I can't do that if I work for AEW. So Jim Ross called him Daniel Bryan a couple times throughout the match. No big deal. But you could kind of feel, based on his entrance and his vibe, seeing his family there at ringside, that this was going to be his night. Swerve Strickland also had a kick-ass entrance. I guess whoever sings his song performed it live, and it was perfect. One of the best live performances of a theme song I have ever heard, because a lot of times if you try to perform the theme song live, or if the band who does your theme tries to do a live performance of it, it doesn't sound the same. I'm sorry, but I hated Motorhead playing Triple H to the ring. I liked the regular Motorhead song better. So even though it was cool to see Motorhead live at a couple of WrestleManias, the song didn't sound good. WrestleMania 14, DX band playing Shawn to the Ring doesn't sound as good as the actual song. And here, it sounded like it was the same song. I mean, unless they were lip syncing. I don't know the name of the act that does Swerve's theme, but it was really good. And just loved his gear, loved everything about Swerve's presentation coming out to the ring. And the match, like I said, was extremely good. What a story. And it was a fun match to where, we got all the classic, kick out spots. We got the near falls, we got the drama, the blood, the family stuff, the back and forth, and the fans, I think, for this to be a 4-hour show and for them to have already seen a lot up until this point, and maybe they went a little bit flat for Britt and Mercedes, they really woke back up for this, and they were all in this whole match. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of emotion from the wrestlers, and most importantly, the fans. So the first big spot in the match is a really nasty spot on the ring apron where Prince Nana goes and gets the ring bell, places the ring bell on the ring mat, and Swerve hits a Death Valley driver onto Danielson, onto the ring bell. And even when he hits it, he kind of comes up and you can kind of see this like wince on his face and he tumbles off the apron, but he landed on the back of his head, but he came up bloody. So when he was down there, I guess he was blading. And so Danielson is now busted open. So he's fighting this whole match, with the busted open head. He, of course, takes control plenty of times. He's got plenty of offense in this match, too. A lot of back and forth stuff here. Probably one of the ugliest spots in the match was this really, really sick cattle mutilation that he put on Swerve. And it was just the position that the move was in. Both guys' necks were at a point where it looked like their heads could just snap off. Like action figure. If you turn the head just the right way, that rubber band's going to come snapping off. Both of their heads in that cattle mutilation just looked dangerously positioned. And right after that, Swerve is able to fight out of the cattle mutilation. So they're on the ground there. Swerve actually fights all the way out of it and kind of puts Danielson into like a driver. It was almost like a Deadeye type of move, kind of like a reverse driver. Don't even know what you would call it. That's how Swerve was able to fight out of the cattle mutilation. And as soon as he hit that, all of the doctors rushed the ring to check on Danielson. At first, it looked like it was his head, then it was his arm. So I like the fact that they had doctors coming in a couple of times. I like the fact that Danielson was covered in blood, having to go all through all of this with his kids. The camera was cutting to Bree and the kids a couple of times, and Birdie was kind of hiding behind the guardrail there. Swerve kind of intimidating them as well. I was worried it would be worse than what it was. I was thinking that Swerve might put his hands on one of his kids. Obviously not hit one of them. I pitched an idea in the predictions for him to house call Birdie. As funny as that would have been hard to pull that off. But I would have been cool if Swerve approached Bree and the kids and maybe put his hand on Birdie's head or something like that. But I don't, unless I missed it, I don't really think that happened. So after the Docs come in to check on Danielson on that move. Swerve just chases all of the doctors out of the ring and hits his double stomp to Danielson right after he was being checked on doctors for a very, very close near fall. When Danielson kicks out of that, Swerve immediately gets up and hits him with the house call. Boom, there you go. House call to Danielson's head. Down he goes. Kick out again. 2 kickouts in a row. We saw a little bit of that in the Ospreay and MJF stuff too. But those 2 back-to-back kickouts were when I realized that we are witnessing a special match right now. I think my favorite part of the whole match, my favorite spot in the whole match, was when Danielson is being kicked by Swerve. Swerve is basically hitting Danielson with his own kicks there, and Danielson is on his knees just being kicked repeatedly. But his position in the ring, he's facing his family. He's making eye contact with his wife, with his kids, while he's being kicked, and he's screaming, "I love you," and he's being kicked. And it's like that connection with his family, being able to talk to his family and see his family as he's being kicked, was like the power in the Undertaker's urn. It like brings him up. He's able to fight out all of that, and he's just standing up and he's fighting through it to hype himself up, and is able to recover and hit the double knees onto Swerve a little bit later. That was so incredible because Swerve completely no-sold it. Here Danielson uses the love of his family to hulk himself up and to turn the tables on Swerve. And now he's got him set up, and he hits his big running knees to Swerve, nails Swerve. Swerve hits the turnbuckle and just kind of bounces back and just, and I'm like, holy shit, brushes it off, and then bam, house call to Danielson, picks Danielson up, hits him with big pressure, and Danielson kicks out. Yes. Crowd immediately shits themselves. I think it's the first time anybody's ever kicked out of that. So now Danielson feels unstoppable, even though Swerve completely brushed off Danielson's knees there, and probably, he scared the fans shitless. I'm like, oh my God, is this going to be him just putting Danielson out of his misery here after he literally just went, like that? But after the house call and the big pressure and the kick out, I think that might have shook Swerve's confidence a little bit. Now, right after that happened, Hangman Page shows up through the crowd, comes through the crowd, hops the barricade, throws down Prince Nana, and security then swarms Hangman and starts escorting him away from the ringside area. This was all done as a distraction to Swerve. This is enough to distract Swerve from what's going on in the ring. And of course, while he's looking at Hangman, you see Danielson on the opposite side of the ring in the corner, crouching down. And I'm like, this is going to be it. Danielson in he comes, 100 miles an hour, bam, double knees to Strickland. And since Strickland brushed it off the last time, Danielson followed it up with the double knees again, this time to the back of the head. So he got the knees, then he got the knees to the back of the head, grabs Strickland, cinches in the label lock right in the middle of the fucking ring. Nowhere for Swerve to go. Taps out, submits. Danielson wins. New AEW World Heavyweight Champion, submitting Swerve Strickland in one of the most fun matches, fun stories, fun roller coasters that we've seen in AEW in terms of judging this match, grading this match in ring compared to the other great in-ring battles we've seen in AEW. Maybe you can consider a couple of matches better than this if you're just judging in-ring and in-ring alone. But just the moment of this, the emotion, Danielson, Swerve, the family, the build leading up to this match, the execution of the match, the finish, the celebration. This is peak AEW. I mean, I don't know if you find a moment better than this, because this is who Danielson is. Danielson's given us these moments in WWE because all of the fans love him. Danielson is beloved. Danielson's a lot like Darby. He reaches everyone. His audience is broad and wide, and everybody is a fan of this guy. And seeing someone like him get this moment, win the match, and get the moment with the family. When Daniel Bryan won the championship at WrestleMania 30, I'm not even sure if him and Brie were married yet, much less having kids and shit. So, having him be able to have a moment like this at the very tail end of his career, winning a world championship, stadium show, in front of the hottest possible audience you could have, celebrating with his family, gets to create that memory with them. I feel like now Danielson, from a professional standpoint, if he tells himself, I have to retire, I feel like he can retire a happy man. I mean, what else do you want? What else could you ask for as a wrestler? Especially if you are on your way out from full-time competition. This is your last hurrah here. And now you get to be world champion and have a couple of title defenses and, be able to go out on your own terms now. And I'm curious, do you guys think they're going to do the deal where he's going to say, I'm retiring when I lose this? I think that's what I would do if I was Danielson. Winning the championship there the way he did for the final time, his victory promo, he should say something like, I'm going to retire when I lose this championship. When I lose this championship, that'll be the end of my full-time in-ring career. And hopefully, if they do that, he won't be so adamant about saying, if I retire, I'm retiring forever, because he can just retire from in-ring competition, maybe come back and work a match in a year or something like that if he wants to, and will always be available to do that, as long as he's medically cleared and happy and healthy enough to do that. So he could say that on Dynamite. He could be like, hey, next person to beat me for this, that's going to be my final match. So that feels like a really excellent setup for Wrestle Dream. I believe that's October 12th in Washington. So that could very well be it for him. He gets the great moment, the great victory in Wembley, but he gets to go out in his own hometown. I feel like that's what they got to do. The only question is who will beat him. My money's on Swerve, or not my money, but my vote. My vote is for Swerve. I think he should pass the belt back to Swerve, making Swerve now a 2-time champion. And before he gets to that match, he can have a match with Christian and maybe a match with Darby Allen as well, and successfully defend the titles against them, and then drop it to Swerve back at Wrestle Dream. That's the way I would book it. And I think in between now and then, you book Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland, because Swerve Strickland obviously is going to be pissed. He's going to want his belt back, but there are a couple of people in line for title shots right now, maybe even ahead of him. You got 2 people in the queue waiting for title shots, Christian and Darby. So in the meantime, Swerve might have to finish off his deal with Hangman Page and then come back at Wrestle Dream and face Danielson. That's the way I feel like all this might go. Let me know if you think it could go in a different direction. But all in all, this was the type of main event I live for as a fan. I think we should all live for. It was fun. It was special. It was feel good. Got all the emotions going, and it couldn't happen to a nicer wrestler. Bryan Danielson is not controversial. There are a ton, of tribal ass bags out there. People who just live to hate on shit, that dedicate their entire online personas to hating AEW, which I just don't understand that mentality, to call yourself a wrestling fan and then just choose to hate something for no reason. But with Danielson, I feel like he's somebody that everybody should like and respect. And even if you are one of those people with an AEW umbrella up your ass that's been opened, I feel like you'd have very little bad things to say, or you should have very few negative things to say about Bryan Danielson, because he's a tremendous worker. He's had a tremendous career. He's earned this, and I'm excited to see kind of how he finishes off his in-ring career now, and how when he drops this title, that could very well be the end for him. And this was an awesome all-in. So I liked this year better than last year for sure. I liked the main event. I just liked the setup. I liked a lot of the stories. And tonight I think the standouts were obviously the main event. Toni Storm and Mariah May, my God, can't say enough good things about that. And Will Ospreay and MJF. I think those were the 3 kind of big matches there that really, really delivered. And everything else was just kind of, I guess, okay. I wouldn't say necessarily bad. I was disappointed with Mercedes and Britt Baker, but I wouldn't say I was disappointed in the gauntlet match. We got Ricochet debuting, and they had a lot of fun stuff happening in that match that was all over the place. A lot of good moments there. Nigel, OC, and Okada starting things off. There was all sorts of fun there. Jeff Jarrett coming out to a huge ovation, and everything they did in that match was exactly why I love professional wrestling. I just think with Christian winning might have been a letdown for some audience members, but then again, you have to remember with Danielson being the champion right now and the story he's going to tell, the person who wins this casino gauntlet likely isn't going to win the AEW championship anyway. You know what I mean? So whoever wins this is going to lose, and you have to book somebody that the fans might enjoy seeing lose. And I think Christian and Danielson could have a really, really fun match. These guys are pros. They're veterans. They should be able to provide us with a really fun championship match. And it might be fun to see Danielson thwart the efforts of the entire patriarchy who are trying to help Jericho out. And Danielson takes them all out and puts the label lock on Christian right there in the middle, and him and his turtleneck are tapping out like a bitch. Could be fun. So I think the Christian outcome was surprising, but it wasn't enough to make the match bad for me because I thought the casino gauntlet was really a lot of fun. And how cool was it to see Nigel? And do you think Nigel is going to stick around long enough to maybe get a run in with Danielson? Because that's what we thought we were going to get all the way a year ago. And they're leaning in hard how Nigel does not like Danielson. So now that he's back in the ring, unless this was a one-off, I feel like we could still potentially get Nigel and Danielson at some point, but there's a lot to do. If Danielson is going to drop the belt at Wrestle Dream, this is just an assumption. He might hold the belt into 2025 for all we know. But if he is going to hold the title until Wrestle Dream, and that's where he's going to drop it, is he going to wrestle all of these guys? Nigel, Christian, and Darby before we get to that match? Don't really know. Let me know your thoughts. Oh, yeah. Gilbert Arbalo brings up a good point during I think it was the Jack Perry match when he pulled out the glass. We got FU CM Punk chants from the crowd. That was pretty funny. Yeah, Darby did not get a lot of offense in this match, did he? Not sure what was going on there. Maybe he's banged up. Maybe he's hurt. They were protecting him a bit. Not really sure. Yeah. The prelude at the beginning of Swerve's entrance felt like Thanos arriving. That's funny. He did have a badass entrance. I really genuinely did like all of the special entrances tonight. Even Jericho's. You know, he was out there singing because what made it for me was when Jericho did the "Hey Guys" in the middle of singing. I'm like, okay, that was pretty funny. But I liked his. I liked the Bucks. I marked out for the Bucks Beatles entrance. Nigel even coming out to the Oasis. Let me see. We had even Mercedes, coming out. Hers was pretty cool. I really liked MJF's and I really liked Will Ospreay's. So a lot of people had great entrances tonight, and it was a special one. It was. To me, this was AEW at their best, especially with that delivery in the main event and all of their top stories. Their key matches here, I think for the most part, all delivered. Because Tony and Mariah did, Ospreay and MJF did, and the main event sure as shit did. Britt and Mercedes, however, was a letdown, but it was cool to see Jamie Hayter back. It was cool to see Nigel McGuinness get back in the ring. It was cool to see Daniel Garcia turn up in the Ospreay and MJF match. And it was really cool to see Ricochet make his debut. And he, even though we only got a glimpse of him for a few minutes in that gauntlet match, it does feel like he's going to stand out maybe a little bit more in AEW. Granted, he stood out in WWE too. He did some great shit there. But, there's a lot of great talent there and a lot of athletic guys. And even when you saw Ricochet tonight, there just seemed to be a little bit of a spring in his step. And I think he's going to have some fun matches. And I cannot wait until it's Ricochet and Will Ospreay for that international title. You got to do that at either Grand Slam or Wrestle Dream, I hope, because that's going to be fun. And we're going to get it. We're going to get Ricochet and Ospreay, but we're going to get it in 2024. That's going to be some fun stuff. Anyway, that concludes our review. My God, what a show. What a show. If you went to the event, thank you for chiming in and saying so in the chat here. I hope you had a blast. Hope you had a great time. Thank you to everybody who tweeted me your photos from the event, from your seats and all that stuff. For those of you in the UK, really, really appreciate that. And I hope you had a blast at the pay-per-view, and that was a good one. That was a good one. I was sports entertained today, for sure. Hopefully you guys were as well. All right, I'm going to get my ducks in the row for the rest of the week here on the channel. Right now, I'm toying with the idea of doing a watch-along tomorrow for Raw. I don't think I'm going to come up here and bother with a review because nothing too crazy is going to happen on Raw tomorrow. I don't believe we're, in the middle of the setup and build to Bash in Berlin. So maybe tomorrow we'll come up and just hang out and watch it since we didn't do a watch-along tonight, which is when we normally do watch-alongs on Sundays. So keep an eye out for that. I think you might see me for a watch-along tomorrow evening for Raw. Thank you again for watching. If you are watching this on demand and you want to drop your opinions about the pay-per-view in the comments below, please do that. And thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up button on the way out the door, and I will catch you guys tomorrow for Monday Night Raw.